Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang channel. Yes, here on the Dispatch once again. So welcome aboard, everybody. This is episode 1046 of the stream. It is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. Welcome aboard. Kind of strange goings on just as I was beginning to stream. It was like kind of threw me a little bit. All of a sudden, a little ladybug fluid hit me in the face. I was like, oh, what the? That's okay. Anyway, if you're not overly familiar with this show, let me point out, super casual, as you can probably tell already. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then I'll usually pontificate on a topic related to our hobby. But we're certainly not involved in anything resembling rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. That's right, just hanging out, having some fun. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, because this is a live stream, that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel to be able to take part in chat. You have to be a subscriber for 5 minutes. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in, and I will do my best to respond. Tonight, I am going to ask the question, are tabletop gamers being priced out of the hobby? Because there is discussion that goes back and forth regarding that. I want to know what you think. Wait till after the news, though. Don't start posting stuff in chat now. And of course, if you happen to watch this after the stream ends, by all means, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Sweet. Anyway, first out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman. Yes, he is one of our chat moderators. He is with us tonight. Kevin King is here, as well as Royce, W. Forge, Ibram, Semper Buffo, Chris Lundgren, and possibly the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D. Maybe lurking in the shadows. Don't know. We shall find out soon enough. Perkins Dearborn is also swinging on in. It's been a while since we've seen Perkins hanging out in chat. So let's jump right on into the news, because launching today on Kickstarter was Biohazard Raging Outbreak from Toribio Games, or I guess it's Toribio Boardgames to be official. Here's the skinny. In a not so distant future, the world as we know it teeters on the brink of annihilation. A malevolent biological hazard is swept across the globe, plunging humanity into a relentless struggle for survival. Nations are on the verge of collapse, and the relentless threat of extinction looms ever larger. Amidst this harrowing backdrop, humanity's last bastions have turned into fortresses, their borders sealed tight against the encroaching virus. as nations isolate themselves, different organizations rise to power, fiercely securing essential resources not only for survival, but also for the development of cures to combat the pandemic. Biohazard Raging Outbreak explores a world on the precipice of chaos, where hope is scarce and resources are a lifeline for both survival and a quest to combat the pandemic. In a relentless battle for territory, alliances, and precious supplies, organizations must make strategic choices that will determine not only their future, but the fate of humanity itself. There is a short Kickstarter video. It's going to tell you a bit more about the game. So let's give it a peek.
In a not-so-distant future, the world as we know it teeters on the brink of annihilation. A biological hazard has swept across the globe, plunging humanity into a relentless struggle for survival. Nations are on the verge of collapse, and the relentless threat of extinction looms ever larger. Amidst this harrowing backdrop, humanity's last bastions have turned into fortresses, their borders sealed tight against the encroaching virus. As nations isolate themselves, different organizations rise to power, fiercely securing essential resources not only for survival, but also for the development of cures to combat the spread. In a world at the precipice of chaos, you must act diligently to bring your regions into lockdown. But be mindful of where to use your resources, as the biological pathogen is unpredictable and moves erratically. In a relentless battle for territory, alliances, and precious supplies, you will be forced to make strategic choices that will determine not only your future, but the fate of humanity itself.
Biohazard Raging Outbreak is for 1 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, and plays in around 60 minutes. This project is right about the 60% funding mark. It kicked off at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, so it's about 60% to its goal in its first less than 12 hours. And I should point out, there is an early bird special going on today for the premium edition. You can save $10. You can reserve a copy for a pledge of approximately $67, which is through 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Then it jumps up to $77. Or you can grab just the standard edition for a pledge of approximately $53 through May 23rd, with an expected delivery this December. So a pretty quick turnaround on this. You may have noticed earlier this morning, I shared a Kickstarter preview video of Biohazard Raging Outbreak. Yes. And I should point out that there are some changes to the game based on my feedback. In fact, I believe this is now a stretch goal. There is a survival mode, which is actually something that I brought up to the designer of the game. So there is that. I thought that was kind of interesting. So I had mentioned to the designer, I said, hey, if you go ahead with this, this optional, variant to the game, you better give me credit. You better give me a shout out, because it was not in the game and it should be now. So I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was pretty nice. I got to say, we enjoyed playing it. It is pretty lightweight. It's not a brain burner by any stretch, but moves along nicely, and it is not co-op. That is going to surprise some people, because usually these pandemic-related board games, such as Pandemic, are co-op. This is not. This is not cooperative at all. It's every faction for itself. Yes. All right, Agile Monk is with us in chat. Sarah D pops out and says, yes, she is guilty as charged, lurking in the shadows. Tesco Love has joined us, as has Kathy Evans and James Eck. Roll for Combat. Steven's popping in. Good to see you, Steven. And Pete Dracolich is also hanging out in chat. So hopefully Steven hangs out so he can chime in on the topic tonight. Yes. Seeing he is a publisher, pornographic material, but he is a publisher. Oh! Yeah. Yeah, little did you know. Little did you know. After Larry Flint died, guess who took over Hustler magazine? Yeah. I'm sure Steven's sitting there like, what the hell is he talking about? Moving right along, Kobold Press has released Guide to the Labyrinth for Tales of the Valiant and 5e Dungeons & Dragons. Here's the scoop. New worlds blink into existence while old ones crumble into the void as never-ending pathways crisscross between realities in a realm known as the Labyrinth. Limitless adventure springs from this place, and valiant, world-hopping heroes tread its pathways in search of fortune, glory, and arcane wisdom. Kobold Press is proud to present Guide to the Labyrinth. This 74-page PDF serves as an introduction to the world of the, you guessed it, Labyrinth. Meet the heroes, villains, and factions who play a dangerous game across reality, caught in a war between forces of creation and the malignant hunger of the void. Learn to walk the unending roads, pathways, and rivers of the labyrinth in search of adventure. Cautiously explore worlds darkened by the void, or find safety in a warded realm. Incorporate your current campaign setting into the labyrinth, or begin a new adventure steeped in the lore of the 10,000 worlds. Featuring over 80 campaign settings, including 70 created by Tales of the Valiant backers, Guide to the Labyrinth offers game masters a short introduction to everything they need to spin their own stories across worlds beyond counting. Well, I guess we would count more than 80. Oh! This title also serves as a primer for the upcoming Labyrinth World book from Kobold Press. This 74-page PDF is available right now over at Drive-Thru RPG for $9.99. I always like to see new Kobold Press stuff. For one, I like their artwork. I like their art style quite a bit. And if you follow the Gaming Gang, you already know that I dig the world of Midgard. I think the world of Midgard is a really nicely put together setting. It's a good fantasy setting. It's not too dark, but it's not too light either. And I definitely love the underworld that they have for the setting, which is populated by vampires and ghouls. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. So the Labyrinth is now another piece of that puzzle, I think. Because I'm pretty sure Tales of the Valiant is going to be set in Midgard. Maybe. Don't know. Steven says, look at you, Jeff, game designer. I could actually probably host an episode of the show talking about some of the things that I have added to games that I just never really crowed about. In fact, it's kind of funny, too, because I've actually worked with some designers who, sadly, the releases were going to be through GMT Games. Not that I've got any problems with GMT Games. It was just, at that point in time, I don't know if it's changed, but at that point in time, GMT Games did not, assign you a developer. You had to go out and find your own developer. So unfortunately, a couple of those projects kind of died on the vine, which was kind of sad because I had actually helped a couple of designers out quite a bit. And of course, if you don't know, I do have the rights to Knights and Magic, the old 1980 Heritage Models Fantasy Miniatures rules that you could actually purchase over at thegaminggang.com. So there is that. And I'm always kicking around trying to share a new edition of it, but I just don't have time. So like I invest so much time into doing this stuff. So there we have it. There we have it. All right, moving right along. Right now over on Humble Bundle, speaking of miniatures, you can save big on Fallout Wasteland Warfare as well as some STL files. Here's the deets on the deal. Crawl out of the Fallout, baby. Did you binge the entirety of the Fallout show and get the itch to go wandering through the bases, ruined cities, and radioactive landscape of the wasteland? Great news. We've cracked open the vault with this encore of the Fallout Wasteland Warfare bundle featuring tabletop combat and role-playing books and resources from Modiphius Entertainment. Prepare for life and death in the post-apocalypse with a digital pack full of rulebooks, RPG expansions, campaign handbooks, and more. Bring your adventures and battles to life with 3D printable STL format, terrain, and miniatures. Create your own legend like Lucy, the Ghoul, or Maximus, and help support trees, people, water. You can grab all 25 items for a donation of $18 or more through May 11th. You can jump on board for a lonely dollar. Now, I will mention the STL files, the Vault Dweller that you just saw, I believe is the only actual figure. The rest is all terrain and vehicles, which I was kind of like, interesting. So Chris Lundgren is going on about asking about, is it unethical to use AI to create a simple role-playing game for your friends? If it's, to be honest, I mean, because I notice Chris is kind of going on about this a little bit. I would have to say, in my opinion, if it's something you're just hanging out with your friends doing, no, don't worry about ethics. You're just screwing around. In my opinion, the problem with AI is the major problem with AI, and I don't know how Stephen feels about this, but the major problem I see with AI artwork is it has to draw upon other artists' work in order to create images. And of course, those other artists are not being compensated in the least bit. So that is the problem I've got with AI. As far as AI, using AI to create paragraphs and check your grammar and spelling and things like that, I don't see an issue with that. And I don't think most people would either. Now, if you were going to turn around and sell it, if you're using it for spell check and to check your grammar, no, I don't have an issue. If you're using it to actually write huge chunks of your book, yeah, then I do have a little bit of a problem. On to our next news piece. Oh, actually, before we do that, the Sagaverse is with us. Good to see you. Thanks for popping on in. So the Sagaverse says, or Sagaverse, I think it's Sagaverse. AI should be used for development and collaboration, not for finished products, unless it's like grammar checking. Yeah, so I guess kind of looking at it the way that I do. On to our next news piece, now available at Dungeon Masters Guild from Crossover, is Last Hope of Fenhill. And here's the skinny on this new 5e Dungeons & Dragons adventure. In Galarne, petty jealousies fester. People are full of bitterness, envy, and distrust. Anyone who is seen to be thriving is pulled back down into the mud by those who are not. Wait a second. Is this Galarne or the United States? What's going on here? Where is this taking place? Small people hurt each other in a big way, and they have no one to blame but themselves. Or do they? Traveling to the wedding of an old friend, you find yourself in the lost Duchy of Galarne, where the populace lives under miserable circumstances. Luckily, you're here for a joyous occasion, and a good party is sure to brighten things up. However, as you spend more time in Galarne, you start to feel uncomfortable. There's something off about this place, something you can't put your finger on. Enjoy the quiet, fair travelers, as you shall be fighting for your lives and those of the people of Galarne before long. Last Hope of Fenhill is a Dungeons & Dragons folk horror adventure for levels 3 to 6. Written by Mireke Cross, Chains of Asmodeus, as well as Achtung Cthulhu, with graphic design and maps by the award-winning Mikhail E. Cross, Chains of Asmodeus, Minsk and Boo's Journal of Villainy, and Modiphius Entertainment. In fact, I just shared my Fallout core rulebook review. He's involved with a lot of the artwork and the graphic design on that. The adventure begins as a slow burn, building the tension by immersing you in a seemingly innocuous world that grows increasingly alien. The many NPCs and beautiful maps found in this book help bring Galarne to life and can be the springboard for future adventures in the Duchy. This 179-page book contains many detailed locations to explore, 100 developed NPCs to populate your games, 14 maps of adventure locations throughout Galarne, new magic items and creatures, as well as numerous handouts and other visual aids to help bring your game to life. The 179-page PDF can be had over at Dungeon Masters Guild, currently at a very special price of $9.95 to introduce newcomers to Crossover's work. And I believe it'll normally carry a $19.95 price tag. And I have to say that out of nowhere, this PDF popped up in my account for review. Like I said, out of nowhere, there it was. I was like, yeah, I'll take a peek. And I will tell you, now granted, I didn't start reading it. I just kind of flipped through the PDF, taking a peek. It's mighty impressive. I wouldn't be shocked if it puts some of the Wizards of the Coast releases to shame. Never know. Never know. So you may want to check that out. Now, I know some of you out there might be wondering, hey, wait a second, Jeff. I thought you don't share any news about Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, if it's a Wizards of the Coast release, I do not. I do not punish third-party publishers for the ills of Wizards of the Coast. I almost said crimes. I don't know why that popped into my head. Yes, for the crimes of Wizards of the Coast. It's like, no. But of course, I will share news and reviews of third-party products all the time. All the time. And let's see, Tessie Trekkie is with us. I don't know if I said hello to Tessie Trekkie or not. I think they were just popping in. So yes, they are just popping in. Very cool. Good to see you. Our final news piece, also available in PDF, is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the Hanbrand Militia. And here's the latest from Cubicle, 7 games. The Reichland may be considered a civilized land, a grand province of the empire and home of its capital, Altdorf. However, much of the land is a dangerous territory, a wilderness of hilly moorland and trackless forest. The province must be defended from enemies within and without. Her people are ready to form such a defense. Hanbrand is one of the province's more productive mining towns. Its militia is a mostly professional force employed by Graf von Wallenstein to guard the town and shipments of ore. The Hanbrand militia patrols around the town, offering the miners some protection from the innumerable dangers of the neighboring Hebersibes. This supplement provides GMs of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay with templates and profiles needed to create the types of soldiers that might be found garrisoning settlements throughout the Empire, or making up the ranks of the nation's armies, as well as templates for halberdiers, scouts, captains, and other sorts of soldiers. The supplement provides particular detail on 4 of the officers responsible for the Handbrand militia. There's a Captain Hilde Prol, an old soldier who takes her responsibilities seriously, the loyal eyes and ears of the Graf, and a careful commander of the Graf's forces. Captain Alaric Marx, a nobleman with the common touch. Marx is beloved by his troops, but more for his habit of ensuring they spend their time carousing rather than undertaking tedious drills. Captain Giselles Terrendorf, the officer in charge of Handbrand Scouts, professional and respectful, but a follower of Renaud with subversive tendencies, as well as Sergeant Aldorf Freer, a talented halberdier and ringleader of a gang of blackguards seeking to prey upon those they are paid to protect. Encounters with the militia are detailed, providing game masters with ideas on how to a meeting with the defenders of the Empire's far-flung communities may not always be straightforward and could potentially lead a band of unwary characters into the murky world of criminality or politics. This 16-page PDF can be had over at Drive-Thru RPG for $4.99. Very nice. Very nice. I always like new Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay releases. Always happy to see that. Although, granted, this is PDF alone because it's only 16 pages. But I also have to point out, a lot of times these shorter supplements that Cubicle 7 pops out, they're actually pretty crammed full of info. So there's usually some good gaming goodies within. All righty. Chris Lundgren asks, Jeff, you may have mentioned in the past, are there quick start rules in PDF for the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game before buying the game first? I don't believe there is. Now, I have reviewed the starter set. You can pick up the starter set for a pretty good price on, I would say, over at Drive-Thru RPG. I know they've got it there. And I would think probably no more than $15. And it does include a few adventures. There is a starting adventure which introduces the concepts of WIFRIP to the players and game master. It's really well done. It's very, very well done. So if you are considering taking a peek at Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, that would be my recommendation. Like I said, to my knowledge, I don't recall ever running across a WIFRIP quick start anywhere. Now, there could be an SRD that I'm not aware of, not necessarily a quick start, but SRDs tend to be free. So there is that. All right, that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, Wargamer's Vault, or Wargame Vault. Why did I say Wargamer's Vault? I know the name of the damn website. Be sure to stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. Now they really aren't banners. The top one is kind of a block. That's how Drive-Thru RPG or One Bookshelf is actually releasing their ads now. They're kind of like a blocky rectangle as opposed to a banner ad. I would prefer keeping the banner ads, thank you. But, you know, you take what you get. Anyway, stop by there, click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up to help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, If you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, please stop by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Yes, Diet Right. I was able to get some Diet Right for a change. Hooray! No caffeine, no sodium. That's the big one. No sodium. I don't mind caffeine. I drink coffee in the morning, so. But the sodium, that is a big deal. Big deal in soda. Yes. Also, big thank you to Agile Monk, who recently stopped by paypal.me/thegaminggang and made a not small donation. So thank you very much to all of you out there who utilize the banner ads and or stop by paypal.me/thegaminggang. Thank you kindly, everybody. So 245 Trioxin is joining us, asking what's a 2-liter run nowadays? $3? Usually, yeah, it's about $3, $3.29. I do not pay that. I'm like, absolutely not. I do not pay that. I go to Walmart and pick it up for, the Diet Right was, what, $1.48 a 2-liter? So when I can, I try to stock up. I'll buy like 10 2-liter bottles because it's like, because for one, I don't live close by a Walmart. The nearest Walmart's about a half hour away. There are actually 3 Walmarts all within about that same 30-minute driving time. So none of them are like closer than the others. Oh, well. So yes, in the suburbs of Chicago where I live, it's just, if you went to the grocery store, unless there's a sale, it's like $3.29, $2.99, something like that. Yes. The Sogverse says, remember the old Lee Majors Diet Right commercials from the 80s? I do not. I'll have to take a peek. I know in the past I've shared 1 or 2 old Diet Right commercials, which I think are from about the 70s. So, and they have been shared in our intermissions. In fact, speaking of that, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
Harry, I just love to go to the movies with you because you always have money for popcorn.
How? Surprise. Let's go and get a hot dog.
I can't, Harry. Your brother is holding my hand.
My brother? Well, I thought he was your brother. How about a chocolate sundae?
I'm going to visit my grandmother that day. Who's going to go to the snack bar to get some 7-Up, the Uncola?
I'll flip you for it.
Harry, my back still hurts from the last time.
Mabel, Black Label, Carling's Black Label beer.
The money on hand determines the brand of a car that you are buying.
You can't cut the price of a suit that's nice or shoes that you've been eyeing.
Her winter coat may have to be goat.
Although she was dying for Sable.
But in beer we boast the best doesn't cost most. We all enjoy Black Label. Mabel, Black Label.
When you step up to order Black Label, you're treating yourself to premium quality. There's none finer. But when you pay for it, put the extra change back in your pocket. Carling's Black Label is yours to enjoy at the popular price. That's the story. Premium quality, popular price. And the big reason why today Carling's Black Label is America's fastest growing beer.
It's a premium brew at the popular price. Enjoy the best. Take our advice. Get Carling's Black Label.
Wilkins coffee and pie, 25 cents.
I didn't drink the Wilkins.
That's $1 even. It pays to drink Wilkins.
The Remco Movie Land Drive-In Theater is straight ahead. There it is now, Betty. Today's double feature. Have Gun Will Travel and Heckle and Jekyll. It looks terrific, Jimmy. Drive right in and park. Let me show you how it works. Switch on the projector, turn the film knob, and you'll see 6 exciting still features. Have Gun Will Travel and Heckle and Jekyll. Captain Kangaroo and Dinky Duck. Mighty Mouse and Farmer Alfalfa. Golly, what clear, big pictures. This Remco Movie Land Drive-In Theater has everything. 6 complete features. Its own giant screen, projection booth, marquee that changes, ticket window, and 6 beautiful cars. Be the first in your neighborhood to own and operate a Remco Movie Land Drive-In Theater. Only $5.98 at your favorite toy store. Remember, every boy wants a Remco toy. And so do girls.
So wait a second, we're going to the drive-in and we're paying to go to the drive-in to see things that are on television? What kind of horse shit is that? Going to the drive-in to go see a couple of cartoons that probably run 5 minutes? What's up with that? And then that little boy's eyes look like they're about ready to burst out of his head. Yeah, Flaming Huron is with us in chat. Says that kid looked a little too excited. I agree. Keldon, no Linquin. It's like, ugh. No Linquisitor and Travis Williams are hanging out with us in chat tonight. Very nice. Very nice. So James Hex said lots of winking in the intermission. Yeah, that was our theme. That was our theme tonight, right? Winking. All right. So tonight we are going to discuss a few things as far as the pricing of tabletop games. So the main topic is, do you feel gamers are being priced out of the hobby? Now, we also have to kind of look at this in 2 different ways. Board gamers, role players. And I know there's a lot of crossover, but then there's also not. So for role players, especially game masters, who tend to be the folks who pay for the adventures and the core rule books and things like that, maybe their group kicks in towards it. I have not seen that a lot in my experiences. Hopefully, your gaming gangs are different. But yes, normally it would be me picking stuff up. Maybe I'd get a free dinner, some pizza or something, because I'm running, a role-playing game or something that I've picked up. But usually it's the game masters picking up and paying for it. So we have seen over the past 3 years a tremendous increase in many of our games out there. And, of course, we had the pandemic, which caused a lot of issues as far as production and the distribution chain, all those things. We had ships sitting, waiting outside of ports, couldn't get unloaded, all those kind of things, all working against the hobby, against the industry. So there were a lot of companies out there who, were hanging on by a thread, and they had product coming over from China that they couldn't get through customs in order to sell. So a lot of times we saw, even just during the end of the pandemic, when we were starting to see things loosen up a little bit, the MSRPs that we had seen of games when they were originally announced jumped a lot. Most of them by probably about 10, 15%, maybe even more. So that was something that a lot of companies, I think a lot of publishers were trying to make up for those lost profits, those lost sales, kind of quicker than, they may have done in the past. So there is that. Of course, Stephen from Roll for Combat will attest that the cost of paper, the cost of printing has skyrocketed. Thing I'm curious about, I don't know why. I don't know why the cost of printing has jumped. Now, I did see somebody had commented, I want to say it's from a video last week, where they said, well, if the pricing is so expensive now for paper and for printing, how is it that Chris Gonnerman can essentially charge cost for Basic Fantasy? Because remember, I had the video about Basic Fantasy last week, which on a side note, I don't think I will be doing the Why You Should Play as part of the stream. Reason is that if I do separate videos, they tend to get way more views than the 1,000 or so that the Basic Fantasy poll has pulled into this point. Anyway, so that's a side note. So I had to kind of chuckle at that because I think they were kind of, because I know Stephen had mentioned that, paper has gone up in price, printing has gone up in price. And I think that was a response to that, saying, well, then how can Chris Gonnerman charge, basically cost for Basic Fantasy? And the reality is, because he's not in it for a profit. That is the truth. When I reached out to Chris asking if he would send a copy of Basic Fantasy 4E for review, he kind of hemmed and hawed about it because he said, well, you do realize we don't really make a profit doing this. I was like, oh, it's up to you. Don't worry about it. But he ended up sending it to me anyway. Whereas Stephen from Roll for Combat and other publishers, just about every other publisher out there, is looking to stay in business and make a profit. That's kind of how it works. Sort of how it works. Agile Monk points out paper prices have skyrocketed. 245 Trioxins with us said they stopped playing Magic the Gathering, so now they can afford all the board games and books. Semper Buffo says corporate greed at play, probably. I think that has a bit to do with it. I think it really does. Keldon says RPGs have a huge range from the big fancy books to the mountains of free stuff out there. We're going to talk about that too, because this topic is leading into the overall topic of our gamers being priced out of the hobby. So a couple of things that I do want to say is that I have got to point out that many board game publishers include components in their board games that are absolutely unnecessary. See it all the time. I see miniatures included in games that don't need miniatures. Give you a great example. So I shared that Kickstarter preview of Biohazard Raging Outbreak this morning. And to track your victory points, now this is in, I think, the premium edition. It has these miniatures, and they're about this big, of various different people in environmental suits. And they're 4 different ones, and they will be part of the premium edition. I don't know why. I mean, all you're doing is tracking your victory points. And the reality is the game comes with discs for you to mark different regions. You can just use one of your colored discs to put on the victory point track. Plus, if you're tied with victory points, you can just put the discs on top of each other. You can't do that with miniatures. But, I mean, it makes a nice touch. The miniatures are cool. Like I said, they're pretty big. They're almost, well, not quite 54 millimeter, but they're certainly not 28 or 32 millimeter miniatures. But they're not needed. I see it all the time. And it's, I think, in some ways, we can blame some of the well-established board game reviewers for this. Now, I'm going to go back when Victory Point Games was around. And I'm not going to name outlets and stuff like that. I'm just, because that's not, the point of this. But there were outlets out there that would not touch Victory Point Games releases because they were like desktop publishing games. I mean, they were laser printed and stuff like that. Even though they were really good games, these outlets just would not give Victory Point Games the time of day because they just didn't have that same production quality as Mayfair Games or, of course, Fantasy Flight Games. They're another great example of companies that really pump up the, production quality of their components far beyond what you really need for the game itself. So it got to the point where publishers out there for board games, remember, we're just talking board games here, got it into their heads that in order to compete, they had to make sure that, oh, well, we've got miniatures and we've got dice towers and we've got custom dice, even though you don't need custom dice, in order to draw in the buyers. And sometimes I have seen games, I have actually not reviewed them because I received them, we played them, and they sucked. And I told the publisher, hey, this is going to get a negative review. And they said, well, don't bother then. And far more time and energy was invested into the components, into the visual pop of the game than the actual gameplay of the game. So I think that is a problem that we have seen on the board game side of things. Flaming Heron says it's all about value for money. I don't mind paying more if I see that value. Chris Lundgren says printing out PDFs at FedEx print centers isn't cheap. I can speak to that, almost just as costly as buying the book online. I have heard from people saying that getting PDFs printed out as books from Lulu isn't too bad. 245 Trioxin says, I don't mind paying extra for board game miniatures if they're 28 millimeter scale and can be reused for tabletop role-playing games. Yeah, see, now I could see that. I'm with you on that. Let's see. Flaming Heron says, that's been a thing for the longest time now. I've seen that time and again for Kickstarters. Because people like visual pop. Yes, I get it. But a game like Everdell has visual pop. It's got that tree, the Ever tree. It's got really great artwork, but it's also an excellent game. So it does have that going for it. Pete Strakulich is with us promoting Goodman Games. I think Joe gave Pete a 20 to hang out and chat tonight and sing their praises. But he's pointing out Goodman Games has their modules down to a science. $10 module for the PDF. Once they're out of print, a hardcover collection of modules. They don't do that a lot. I think, well, they've done that for 5th edition fantasy. I've not seen them do that too much for like Dungeon Crawl Classics. But, and yes, the module comes with a PDF code. It does. I thought modules were a little more than $10. I thought their adventures were a little bit more. Chris Lundgren asks if metal miniatures versus plastic in tabletop miniature gaming is vastly different in price. Yes, hugely different. Just like you've got resin as well. Resin's kind of the middle point. Battletech, for example, they prefer the metal miniatures. Well, back when you had lead miniatures, it was like, not that expensive. And then it was like, oh, no, it's lead. It's like, okay, well, just don't chew on it. Flaming Heron says, in regards to dice towers, custom dice, miniatures, etc., a lot of the time they make it only for the link to the Kickstarter as well. But we see less and less of the standard edition versus a premium edition. More and more publishers are just doing premium edition. You want it? This is what it's going to be. And it's $150, $199, what have you. Now, as far as role-playing games, we see just pricing all over the place. So we've already seen the pricing increase for Paizo Inc. go into effect. If you checked out my Paizo preview for the month, they do have their increased price on their Adventure Path chapters. Now they're up to $29.99. They were normally $23.99. It wasn't that long ago that they went up to $26.99. Now they're up to $29.99. And they cut the number of pages. So there's a little shrinkflation going on in there too, because back when they were $23.99, normally your Adventure Path chapter would run over 100 pages, maybe about 104. Now they're like 96. And I'm not knocking Paizo Inc. It's, every company is doing some form of shrinkflation to survive. So yes, Flaming Heron points out it's price creep. And now they're big, like Lost Omens books and things like that. In fact, I have the TNG World Guide right here. And I believe, if I remember correctly, it's $79.99. It is $79.99. And it clocks in, it does have a poster map, at 304 pages. The 304th page is an advertisement. The reality to me is that role-playing games tend to pack more value if you're going to play them. That's really the big caveat there, is they have to be played. But if you pick up, let's say, as an example, let's say you picked up a hardcover book. I'm not pointing out this book in particular. Let's say you picked up this, a hardcover book. It's an adventure book. Let's say it's 300 pages and it's $80. That is going to provide you probably months of gameplay, months of sessions, 4-hour sessions, longer sessions, whatever. So I don't see, looking at the price, saying $80 for a hardcover book, holy shit. That's really what pops into my head. But then I also sit there and I think to myself, okay, if it's an adventure book or even a core book, you should get a lot of use out of that if you end up as a game master running it and your players play it. Now, that's not always a guarantee, unfortunately. Unless it's Goodman Games, well, then hell, Okay, so Stephen from Roll for Combat's chiming in, says it's simple math. Each piece of standalone art is around $150 per piece, $400 to $500 per half page, $1,000 for a full page. Covers around $1,600. Writing is 10 to 20 cents per word. Yeah, add it all up. So Roll for Combat, Stephen says, that book you're holding, I'm not holding anything anymore. What are you talking about? Probably about $60,000 in production costs alone, not including printing. I get it. I understand it. Completely get it. And, a lot of people out there question Wizards of the Coast. Well, it's really Hasbro who wants to push it. Getting rid of the whole actual physical book aspect of Dungeons and Dragons, where it's all digital. The cost of printing and all that, part of the reason. Plus, if they go digital, now I don't know what they'll do eventually with AI artwork. I have no clue. Their stance currently is nuh-uh, although there have been some pieces that have slipped through the cracks and made their way into releases. But I also get the feeling that if everything goes digital for Dungeons and Dragons, you will see a lot of artwork recycled to save money there as well. So yes, so Stephen's kind of given us an idea of what's going on here. Chris Lundgren says they had a good run with their hard copy of Osric. It cost him $35 at Lulu at the time. That's where I got my copy of my Osric book, was over at Lulu. Lulu can be hit or miss. It really can. I pointed out before that I got Fletcher Pratt's Naval War Game, a special edition from this website, and the file was just a mess. It was just all these like symbols and stuff interrupting sentences and words, and I was like, didn't anybody check this before? And then, of course, I ripped on it in a review, and then they contacted me and they said, oh, you must have gotten a bad copy. We'll send you a new one. Never sent anything. And it was like, I'm not changing this review. I'm like, I can only review what I've got my hands on. So we are talking about the pricing increase. So let's talk about, are gamers being priced out of the hobby? And I am of two minds here. So on one hand, and I've talked about this before, you have people out there who will get all pissy because they want something and they can't afford it. And they feel simply because they want it that they ought to have it. And we see that attitude more and more and more, which honestly freaks me out because my generation did not think that way. Now, granted, I'm not saying that there weren't a lot of people for my generation who lived outside their means, because there's plenty of them who are still drowning in debt. But it wasn't where it was like you wanted something and you couldn't have it, so you would be all pissy at the people who did have it. That's why it got to the point, you used to see people come back from conventions and that, and they'd be like, oh, hey, here's my convention haul. This is the stuff that I got. And people would respond like, oh, man, that's so cool, blah, blah. Then suddenly it was like, oh, why are you rubbing our noses in it? We couldn't go to that convention. We couldn't afford to buy that stuff. I'm sorry, but, oh, there you go. Flaming Heron says, no one's owed anything. Right. It's exactly it. So Stephen points out people spend 10 to 20 bucks on coffee at Starbucks and then complain about role-playing game book prices. Oh, yeah. I have a friend, they will remain nameless, who they no longer do this. But what they used to do is every day they went to Starbucks and they would buy drinks for 3 people, including themselves. And they would do it twice a day. Did it in the morning, did it later on, late afternoon. And then they would cry about how they were always broke. And I was like, well, I don't know. You spend $45 a day over at Starbucks. I was like, oh. Flaming Heron says, we can't have all the nice things. Yeah, that's why we can't have nice things. So I have a problem with that. And you're going to find that my answer to the question, are gamers being priced out of the hobby? My answer is no. And you might be surprised by that. Vaughn Moore is with us in chat, said they got their Lulu copy of Osric. It was formatted incorrectly. All the page numbers were cut off. Support refused to do anything to help. And Stuart Marshall told me to just buy the more expensive version. Well, that's nice. Damn. Weird. Weird, weird, weird. So anyway, so the reality is, I think the answer is no. What the problem people have is that they don't have the disposable funds in order to purchase games that they may want, right? Everybody wanted Gloomhaven. Not everybody wanted to spend 150 bones or more on picking up Gloomhaven. And it turned out there are a good number of people who did buy Gloomhaven and regretted that decision. Just wasn't for them. But I think the problem has become that, and I think this is more everything, not just games. People can't be satisfied with something being good enough. People always want to have the top of the line, right? I don't want a Kia. I want a Lamborghini. Why can't I have a Lamborghini? Why does that guy have Lamborghini? I don't have Lamborghini. How come they've got it? I want that. Maybe I'll steal it. Whereas a Kia gets you where you need to go. If a Kia is within your budget, my dad drives a Kia. I mean, it's a relatively nice car. But I know people complain about, Kias are cheap. Aren't Kias out of South Korea, or they used to be out of South Korea? I think it was Kia. But yeah, I think that's what we run across, because the reality is, especially role-playing games, if you want to play role-playing games, as long as you got a computer, maybe if you got a tablet. I mean, personally, I can't even imagine trying to read RPG books on a phone. No, thank you. Nuh-uh. But if you have a computer, if you got a tablet, if you have access to a computer and a printer, there's tons of free stuff. We talked about Basic Fantasy last week. We've got all the SRDs that are out there for not all, but a lot of the different systems that are available. You want to play Dungeons and Dragons? You want to play 5e D&D? You can. There's an SRD There's a system reference document. It's absolutely free. Now it's Creative Commons. It's not open game license anymore. You can pick that up. There you go. Now I know a lot of people out there are like, well, I don't like published adventures. Great. Get the SRD. It's absolutely free. And now create your own adventures. Didn't cost you a dime. There's even free dice apps for your phone. I'm sure people around the table all have a smartphone. I mean, people who don't have two nickels to rub together have smartphones that they go plug in the outlet outside of 7-Elevens to charge. So almost everybody's got a smartphone. And of course, you also have the starter sets from various different role-playing game companies. But the honest to God truth is, if you're interested in a role-playing game, see if there's an SRD out there. There's never a cost for it. Now, granted, you're not going to get artwork. There's usually things that are trimmed out of the SRD because the system reference document is normally provided for third parties to create content for that game. That is the main purpose of an SRD. I guess some people don't realize that, but that is what it is. Something else, keep in mind, PDFs. PDFs over on Drive-Thru RPG. And I'm not saying this because I'm affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites, because there are a lot of people affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. But you can get role-playing game PDFs pretty damn cheap, especially if you keep your eyes peeled. Bundle of Holding, Humble Bundle. Humble Bundle every month has a rocking deal of some sort on a role-playing game. And maybe that role-playing game isn't necessarily up your alley that month. Keep your eyes peeled. Next month, something's going to roll around. We always see Pathfinder. We see Pathfinder constantly. We see Modiphius Entertainment releases. So we had the Fallout role-playing game. Now it's the Fallout Wasteland Warfare that is the big special bundle for $18. So I don't believe that gamers are being priced out of the hobby. Gamers may not have the disposable income to buy the games they want to have, but that's how life has always been. Since man invented money, since man invented currency, there have been people who had some and who did not have some, and people wanted something they couldn't afford. So when people get all bent out of shape because they can't get something that other people have, and other people say, oh, this is great, we're really having a blast, it's not the publisher's fault. Now, having said that, I do believe that there is some price gouging going on in our hobby, both with board games and role-playing games. And yes, I understand. Stephen has pointed out exactly, what you're looking at with a lot of costs with role-playing game books, but not all role-playing game books. There are a good number of role-playing game books out there that are pretty pricey, that do not have a ton of artwork. We know that. There are some role-playing games that are out there that have been, the IP has been around for a good long time, where some of that artwork is just recycled. So that artwork's not costing the same amount as it did when it was originally used in a product. So, but then we still see the books are like, holy cow, man, that book is $60 for a 220-page hardcover. So there is that. Somebody earlier had pointed out that it's corporate greed. I wouldn't say it's corporate greed, because, I mean, that's everywhere. But it is somewhat where one publisher sees what another publisher is charging for something similar to what they might be selling. I don't mean similar game. I just mean, oh, okay, so it's a hardcover, clocks in at about 250 pages. It's got XYZ number of art pieces. They're charging this for it. Okay, I'm going to charge this for it. And then another publisher says, well, our stuff is better than these two publishers. Our book's going to be $5 more. Chris Lundgren asks, if the prices of OSR role-playing games are generally cheaper than mass market role-playing games. Role-playing games from any independent publisher are normally lower in cost. I don't want to say cheaper. They're lower in cost than, say, the Paizos and the Wizards of the Coasts and the Mongoose Publishings and things like that. Just like someone had mentioned, one of the reasons why Mongoose Publishing has higher than average prices on their game books is because they actually pay the people who work on them. I was like, trust me, vast majority of the publishers out there releasing role-playing game books pay the people who worked on them. Don't say that's why Mongoose Publishing charges a lot more for their releases. Well, they pay people. Nobody else does. See, that's the story. Stephen over at Roll for Combat never pays anyone. That's why the price of his hardcovers are lower than Wizards of the Coast. But yes, usually independent publishers, their books are going to be less because a lot of times they don't have the same amount of artwork, or the artwork is all line art. It's not color art, or a lot of the art has been provided by people who are friends of the creators and they're cutting them a break and things like that. So Pete Stracklich says the last hardcover they paid full price for was the Old School Essentials Adventure Anthologies 1 for $20. It's an A5, just like the OSE books happen to be. Is that what it was? The Adventure Anthologies 1 is $20? I know I shared a news piece about it. I forget. I'm sure it's over at Exalted Funeral. Omanal says, Humble Bundle, Numenera, Call of Cthulhu, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Mutant Crawl Classics, Cubicle 7, Warhammer, Traveler. Right. So that's one of the things I tell people all the time. If you want to get into role-playing games. Now, if you want to get into board games, there are print-on-demand games out there. If you hang out over at Board Game Geek, you have loads and loads of people who share basically print and play games that, you download the files, you print the stuff out, play it. And a lot of times what happens is that the people who are releasing that are trying to get some playtester feedback so they can continue developing the game. So you've got that. Of course, you got to print this stuff out. Something else I like to tell people all the time, go to your local Goodwill. If you have a used bookstore in your area, go check that out. Although, I got to say, I am shocked by some of the prices of used bookstores and paperbacks. I remember I took my niece to a half-price books, and they had this copy of Stephen King's It, and this sucker was beat to shit. And they wanted $9. I was like, I'm like, are these guys out of their minds? Omanal says GMT is insane for cost. Yes, their value. Yeah, they pack exceptional value in their games. See, that's something else you want to keep in mind too, is that A game that you buy, and let's say the board game is $80, but then you end up playing that game 20 times over the life of that game in your possession. That's a pretty awesome deal. I mean, Twilight Struggle practically paid for itself in the amount of entertainment it has provided me over the years. So, W4 says, how many settings and rule systems would be considered too many? I may have over 100 settings, maybe over 30 different systems. Do I really need more? It's a question you ask yourself, W4. No one can give you that answer. John Snyder has joined us in chat. So it looks like we had a pretty good chat tonight. But all in all, in the end, there are ways for you to enjoy this hobby that do not cost you an arm and a leg. Yeah, okay. You're not going to be picking up the new Vecna book for 5e D&D, but there are ways for you to play 5e D&D that really cost you nothing. There are ways to play Traveler, and let's see, Call of Cthulhu has an SRD. I think, does Pendragon? It's either RuneQuest, I think it's RuneQuest actually has the SRD. So, Pete Strackledge says, new Dungeon Crawl Classics Dark Tower is $109. I want it, but can't pull the trigger. I'm with you on that. I really want it too. But yeah, there's no way. I do not have the funds devoted to the gaming gang to go pick up Dark Tower, but I would love to have it because I have shared coverage of the first 6 of the original adventures reincarnated. Cal Venoni is with us. Good to see you, Cal. Thanks for popping on in. But yes, there are a lot of ways for you to, and I'm not talking about resorting to piracy. Okay, please do not think I am telling you to go become a pirate. And yes, I understand. I know the websites. Okay, don't pretend that I don't know. Just like don't pretend that I don't know that there is someone who watches this show who pirates role-playing games. And it is like clockwork. I tackle a game, and then within a few hours later, there's a request for it on one of the well-known pirate websites. And it's funny because it's never something that'd be like, oh, well, Jeff talked about the latest Dungeons and Dragons book, which would not be the case these days. But you know what I mean, right? Then it's something obscure. And then, because I do rat out pirates. I know, probably doesn't make me a popular person, but I do. Because I have friends in the industry and people's livelihood depends on that. And I know people think, well, I'm just one person who's not going to buy this. Or they sit there and they tell themselves or they tell other people, well, I just want to see how good it is. And then I'll go buy it. You're so full of shit. No, you aren't. You are not going to go support the publisher once you've gotten it for free. Anyway, I am not telling you to go pirate stuff, but I am telling you, especially for role-playing games, there is tons and tons of free role-playing game content that you could spend the rest of your life playing and never spend a dime on. Now, granted, it's not the newest, shiniest things out there. Well, a lot of times, although there are new quick starts that are released for games that are on the horizon, don't cost you anything to play those, and they are new and shiny. Dusty Trekkie says, Avast and ahoy. Pete Strackledge says, Noble Knight rocks. I bought a couple of things over the years from Noble Knight. Now I find their prices to be pretty much in step with eBay. And eBay can be real tricky as far as buying stuff on the secondary market. Kyle Chaplin is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. Says, nah, people got to eat. That's right. And people's children need to eat too. Omanal says, I prefer to buy, but I do look at what is written before I buy. Well, yeah, I mean, these days, I would think most people should depend on legitimate reviews before they make a purchase. So, in my opinion, if it means getting something a week later than when it would come out, I would prefer to listen to some voices who I trust. Tell me about that before I go and make the purchase. John Snyder says, at this point, 5e core books should be on Dungeon Masters Guild. I mean, come on. Also, why do they hold them back? They're only losing legit sales to people who want to buy legally. And the reality is, Wizards of the Coast knows that their books get pirated. Their books get torn apart, scanned, and pirated shortly after they hit the stores. John Snyder says 5-minute reviews can kick rocks. Hey, I'm trying to get my reviews about 15, 20 minutes because I know I had a very bad habit of very long, winding reviews. I still don't script stuff. I just don't like scripting stuff because to me, I've done it and I sound really super boring. Not that I'm an exceptionally exciting person to listen to anyway, but still. Chris Lundgren says, what about using the Internet Archive for out-of-print games? Is that okay? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And I really do like Internet Archive. That's where I upload my old-time radio shows for Halloween. You may not notice that, but that's where they are hosted, is I upload them to Internet Archive. But just because something's on Internet Archive does not mean you're not infringing on someone's copyright by getting it for free or utilizing it. So most stuff is fine. But I'll give you a great example. If you went, I don't know if it's on there or not. Let's say you go to Internet Archive and there's a scan of G1, the Steading of the Hill Giant Chief for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which has a spot in my heart because it's the first role-playing game purchase I made. Anyway, yeah, before I even had any books. Nice going, dummy. So anyway, let's say you go and you find it and you download it, well, legally they should not be sharing that because Wizards of the Coast does own the copyright to that. It is not Creative Commons or anything along those lines. Perkins Dearborn says, old school essentials adventure books go for $15 on Exalted Funeral plus shipping. You know, I wish I could get on board with Exalted Funeral to review some of their stuff because I would love to move more and more to some independence, to share some love for more independence out there. Kevin King says Dr. Droidbort doesn't like Jeff's reviews. Oh, are they complaining about my review? I didn't realize they were complaining about the review. I know Crowbar Creative gave my tweet a like, or on my Zeet, or whatever you consider that. But no, I did not know that. Cal Chaplin points out, the Conan one is such a shame. The content for that was great. If you're talking about the Modiphius Entertainment, yes, I mean, that was some yeoman's work that was put in on that. So yes, Kevin, seriously, did somebody from Crowbar Creative or Exalted Funeral complain about my review. That's funny. That is funny. Oh, no, Kevin says they're just joking. I mean, because I gave it a 7. There's stuff I like about it, but check out, if you have not checked it out, take a peek at that review, because that is certainly not the direction I would have expected a company to go with a 5e supplement, which is a complete new setting and stuff like that. It's really weird. And it's almost like they tried to pack too much stuff in the book, because it's like, oh, here's a stat block for it. Here's a little kind of flavor text about it that really doesn't tell you about what the piece of gear is. It's sort of like, well, here's a picture of it. Here's a stat block. Here's like an advertising blurb, a fake advertising blurb. And it's sort of like, he could have like given us a paragraph, right? I mean, come on. Could have given us fewer gadgets, more info about the gadgets. Chris Lundgren asks, what options out there besides drive-through and Lulu for print on demand? I don't know. I gotta be honest. I do not know. I have no idea. I know like local print places, I think they do that. I think UPS stores do it. FedEx stores do it. But I think you have to like place the order online and upload the PDF and then pick it up like in a week or something like that. I don't know. Pete Stracklich says they're eating hamburger helpers so they can save money for role-playing games. What are you talking about? I'm eating ramen noodles. I wish I could afford the hamburger helper. Kevin King says their approach does not make it intuitive for 5e folks to run, in their opinion. And the thing that really threw me off about the Dr. Grodbort's Scientific Adventure Violence is that I loved Rackham Vale from Crowbar Creative. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really well done. And I was really expecting great things from Dr. Grodbort. And yeah, it's good. I mean, I was entertained reading through it, but I was also sitting there just kind of going, W. Forge says that me, almost made them consider buying Fallout role-playing game with my review and with the current sale, but I don't know how I'd get to play it. Yeah. That seeing out my nephew is a huge Fallout nut, my nephew Cameron. So he is currently in Africa, but when he comes back, I'm thinking of just surprising him and run a little bit of Fallout, the role-playing game. Chris Lundgren says FedEx keeps saying no to the PDF because they have a copyright even though they buy the PDFs. Yeah, that would be correct. Yeah. So if it's something that's got a copyright, I'm not surprised. Because just because you purchased the PDF, you own that PDF. That's what you've got the rights to, is that PDF. So Perkins Dearborn says they printed out a few PDFs, had them spiral bound at FedEx. Cost about $15. Or Kinko's. That's who I was trying to think of. But I didn't know if there were many Kinko's around anymore. Did not know. All righty then. So once again, the answer to the question posed tonight is no, I do not think tabletop gamers are being priced out of the hobby. But I think tabletop gamers are just a little too demanding and probably don't want to accept the fact that maybe every single game they want isn't for them. Right. Anyway, tomorrow I am going to answer the question, should you hire a professional dungeon master? Oh, I think you already have an idea what I'm going to be saying about that. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube. I'll also inform you when I share other videos, such as the aforementioned review of Fallout, the role-playing game core rulebook from Modiphius Entertainment. Yes, I'm jumping on that Fallout bandwagon. Actually, that series has brought in a lot of viewers to the Fallout videos. So pretty cool, pretty cool. Anyway, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watch live and took part in chat, big tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company too. And if you were in chat and I did not say hello to you, I do apologize. I always try to say hello to everybody, but sometimes things pop past and I miss somebody squeaking on in. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for watching any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang YouTube channel. I'll be back tomorrow. Once again, as I mentioned, tomorrow's topic is, should you hire a professional dungeon master? Yes. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I hope every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.